Welcome back to iSeries 2015, and it's been a crazy couple of days, but hey, you get to meet new friends, you get to meet friends that you've had last year, years before, and it's a good thing. We welcome to the show Miss Anita Agers-Brooks.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you, David.
Hey, no problem. She's a friend of Pamela Christian.
Yes.
And we had Pamela here today, and she's like, do you think you can get my friend on there? And we met in the hallway, coming to the interview room, and we just finished the show, and I'm like, look, I'm looking at my schedule, looking at my time, and I'm like, well, we can do it.
Yes.
And then this afternoon, I said, let's change it just a little bit earlier, and then I had an appointment I had to get to that was unexpected, and everybody was so patient, and I just appreciate them because, most people, if you have a scheduled time, they get crazy. And I've had publicists come in and just light it up, but I'm like, you know what, don't send me any more clients.
You know what, my philosophy is if that's the worst thing that happens today, it's been a great day.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Just tell us who you are.
I am from Missouri.
Okay.
I've been married 32 years to a wonderful man. I am an inspirational business and life coach,
Okay.
a certified personality trainer. I speak all over the country, even have spoken out of the U.S., and I'm an author. My latest book is called Getting Through What You Can't Get Over.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's the whole reason, that's the reason I wanted you on the show. Because I seen that title of this book, and the titles really make a big difference. Mm-hmm. And this is what our show's about. It's about helping people. Every time I talk about either depression or fears or any kind of things like that, I get a lot of people just downloading the show. Now, you're telling me just before we got on the air, you told us about Amazon. Tell us what this has been on the bestseller list.
Well, I'm really humbled. It's been ranking for 12 weeks on Amazon's bestseller. The message apparently is just really resonating with people because so many times, when we are hurting or we're wounded or we went through a traumatic event, people will mean well and they'll come alongside of us and they'll try to encourage us or cheer us up, but unfortunately in their efforts it really wounds us more. Proverbs 25:20 says, like taking a cloak from a man on a cold day or pouring vinegar in an open wound is singing songs to a heavy heart. So I wrote this book, yes, to be able to help people who want to help the hurting have an idea of some things that they can do and maybe some things they shouldn't do, as well as to give, ideas for that person who is so wounded that maybe trying to get through a whole day is too overwhelming. They just need something to get them through the next moment.
That's amazing. So what made you put this book together? What inspired you to put this together?
Well, what inspired me was going through a period of my life where I just had one tragedy or traumatic event after the other, come into my life. My friends and family, so many of them said, you're like the female version of Job right now. And I'm like,
how we've been there.
Yes, tell me about it. And so I now, I refer to that as my Jobette season, the female version of Job. But I wrote the book because there were moments when I was down in that black pit, and I wanted desperately to feel better. And it seemed like the more I would try to scale out, the more I would just slide back down. And I would have loved to have had a resource that would have given me some spiritual and practical tools to help me. So that's what I've tried to do, is really marry the two, practical and spiritual, and give folks some things that maybe that will help them.
I tell you what, how many times have you had to go through what you had to go through, and you keep going through it until you finally learn it?
Oh, absolutely. I remember one of the darkest moments of my life, and in all honesty, David, I felt suicidal. I mean, as a Christian.
That hits people. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're exempt from it. You have to be able to fight that. It's a spirit that comes at you. It lurks around and it waits to see you in your weakest moments, and it comes in and starts putting those thoughts in your mind.
Absolutely. But thankfully, yes, that spirit comes along, but we also have God who sees us and loves what he sees. And in my case, what he did for me was he sent me a divine appointment. And I met a woman who was a Holocaust survivor. And this woman, we just had this time where we were at a lunch meet and greet, reached out to shake her hand, and she suddenly says to me in her very thick accent, "We must meet. God has spoken." And I have to tell you, David, I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm thinking, are you talking to me? And then the second thing I thought was, I didn't hear God say anything. But she was adamant. And so I ended up meeting with this woman, and she shared many of her experiences through the Holocaust. And throughout that, all I could do was think about the joy on her face, and I could hear, the laughter that fell from her lips. And I thought, oh, to be
It's
able
amazing.
to feel that again.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's amazing when someone shares something that they've been through, and you see where they're at 30 or 40 years from that, and they're great. I was on a plane going to Atlanta, and there's this man on the plane with me, and we were just talking, and he was just real quiet. And he looked at me. He goes, "You're a minister?" I go, "Yeah." Yeah. He goes, "I can tell." And this man, the way he talked, he was no Christian. I mean, this is the way we look at it. But we don't judge. We just look. And then he goes, I go, "Do you know the Lord?" And he told me these amazing stories. He just said, I was shot down in my plane, and I laid on the floor with all my other friends that were all dead. I was the only survivor, and he was there. I was inside a building when the sniper wouldn't let us get out, and they bombed the building, and he came down on us, and he was with me.
Oh, David.
I was in a car wreck, and they took my leg, but he was with me. He goes, and he just started crying, the tears off of his eyes.
Yes.
And he had a good life afterwards. He had a good life. He goes, "I've had a good life. I have raised children." He goes, "I have a metal leg that can take off and hit people." He was just funny at the end, but you could just tell that he went through hell.
Yes.
And that I just looked at him and said, "Man, he was pretty tough." I mean, and you have to be. And you look at your example there, the Holocaust lady that was a survivor. She was pretty tough. And it's hard to think we have to be tough like that.
It does, but we can also learn from people
Absolutely.
like that. I mean, she taught me something in that one day that changed my life. She looked at me and she said, "You are familiar with the 23rd Psalm, are you not?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Do you not feel as if you were walking through the valley of the shadow of death right now in your circumstances?" I said, "That's exactly how I feel." And she said, "I want you to take note. God does not say slow down. He does not say stop. He does not say pitch a tent. He does not say build a house. He tells us to walk. And when you feel as if you do not have the strength for one more step, you remember me and you walk anyway. And one day you will look up and you too will realize that you have stepped back into the light." Changed my life.
Wow, that's amazing. What about all the people that are out there that say, "Oh, get over it," or "Come on, pick yourself up, just put it behind you," or pick yourself up by the bootstraps? You hear those kind? They're meaning well. What's your response to that? How should we respond? What do you think we should say?
Yeah, well, for one thing, I have to confess, I am embarrassed to say that at one point in my life, I was that person.
Okay.
But I have learned by going into that pit that I did not want to be in, that is one of the worst things that you can do. Just as I shared that proverb earlier, we don't want to try to cheer someone up with a heavy heart. What we want to do is show compassion and empathy. We want to say, "I am so sorry that you are going through that. I'm going to pray for you," or even better, "Can I pray with you right now?" There is nothing when you are in that dark place to have light shine on you than to hear someone pray the words of God over you, especially if they pray, things from the Bible, those promises that we can stand on. And they'll echo in our minds when we are in those dark places. And we will remember, we'll know from that we are cared for.
That's true. Now, post-traumatic stress, that plays a big part in a lot of people's depression, a lot of people's hurts. In fact, I had someone on the show this last couple of days that talked about that wrote a book about that as well. Tell us about your book and how you address some of that.
Yes. I do address post-traumatic stress disorder and getting through what you can't get over, but from a different way than most of us are used to. Typically, we discuss that as far as a military reaction.
Yes,
but
typically.
So I talk about common traumas. Everyday, ordinary people equally can suffer from PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And so what I do is, again, offer those things to help them get through those tough moments when they feel like they don't have the strength to take one more step, hopefully giving them something to help propel them forward until they too can step into the light.
What are some tips that you can give everybody just to experience a little bit more happiness in their life? And nobody wants to be miserable. Nobody wants to wake up and just don't want to even get out of bed.
Right.
Give us some points that might help someone.
Well, one of the first things that has really helped me is to work on my mindset. And that means doing something in spite of not feeling like it, maybe especially because you don't feel like it. So you set a goal, but it's a small goal. That goal may be nothing more than, I will get out of bed by this time. I will go take a shower today. I will get dressed. Now, for some folks, that may sound oversimplified, but when you are in a place of deep depression or anxiety, that's huge. That by itself makes a difference. Sometimes, too, when we're depressed, we kind of let clutter build up on us, and we don't recognize sometimes that just adds more weight to an existing problem.
Absolutely.
So if you just spend time, clean one corner. If that's all the energy that you can muster up, do that for yourself. But you'll be surprised by doing little tiny things, how that energy will build on other positive energy on top of other. Then the other thing that I would offer from a spiritual perspective is to meditate on Scripture.
Okay.
So for instance, many of us are familiar with the passage that says, I can do all things through him who strengthens me.
Yes.
Well, meditate on that. Take that Scripture and say, focus on the first word, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Then meditate on the second word, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Do that till you go through that entire Scripture. If you take those spiritual applications and you marry those to the practical, one step at a time, you will find that eventually you will get through to that place where pain-filled people can laugh yet again.
Tell everybody how they can get your book.
You can find it anywhere books are sold, Amazon.com, obviously.
Bestseller.
Yes,
Keep
bestseller.
it running.
Barnes & Noble, Books
Okay.
A Million. And they can also go to my website if they'd like an autographed
Please, give me the
copy.
website.
And it's AnitaBrooks.com, so that's AnitaBrooks.com.
You dropped the Agers on there.
Yeah, I just did. I kept it simple, AnitaBrooks.com.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you, David. It was my pleasure.
And we appreciate you, and we're glad that we took the time to have you in here. And we're glad that you took the time to wait, because I'm sorry you had to wait so long.
No problem at all.
We'll be back with another great guest, actually our final guest in just a minute.